Hey, welcome for another tutorial on Excel. I wanted to do a quick tip video again, but this time I'm going to focus on creating a pivot table within Excel. So this concept again is actually pretty consistent. I'm actually working off of a Mac, but the process is still the same if you use Excel within a Windows-based operating system. So let's go ahead and jump in. I wanted to actually outline a set of data where I've got a few columns that show just some basic information, color, size, the type of clothing, and then the gender in which the clothing is made for. But I want to create kind of a summary table that kind of allows me to understand, how many females are needing an extra large, for example, and then kind of breaking out and slicing and dicing the data in that respect. So I won't waste too much time talking. I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and show you how to do this. So what you want to start off doing is actually highlighting the set of data that you want to create a pivot table for. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this information. What I did as far as a shortcut is I went ahead and did the shift arrow, holding down the control key and the down arrow. If you are a Mac user, obviously that's shift, command, and then the down arrow. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click on data. And when I click on data, there's an option called pivot tables. I want to go ahead and click on this icon here. And what that'll do is it will automatically generate a pivot table. So as you can see here, since I am working off of a Mac and this version that I'm working on is a 2011 version, it looks like it already preset my pivot table based on how I've selected certain things, but there's easy ways to make this data more flexible. So as you can see here, it's outlined the colors based on the data set that I'm working with, and then the size. So let's just go ahead and work with this information and just see where it takes us. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to understand, how many units fall into each of the different categories. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drag in the gender field, and what that will do is it will provide just a general count based on what I have here. So what this data is telling us is that for the size of large in the color black, I only have one person that fits this criteria. But if I scroll to the ground total, there is actually 4 unique records that actually have a color black that is selected as far as a clothing or color type. Same thing can be done when you're looking at size. So there's approximately 4 records where large has been selected. So let's just say I want to get down into a little bit more specific detail. So I want to drag what they're calling the gender field as a filter, report filter option. And what that does, whenever you have certain fields that are in this report filter option, it gives you the ability to do just that, filter. So let's just say I don't want to look at an overall total, but I want to look at, from a female perspective, what does that volume look like, and how does that look like in terms of size and color. So what you can see here from the data, and let me go ahead and expand this, so I apologize. What you can see here from this information is that I've got a total of 3 females that have selected color blue as a selection. I've got 2 females that actually selected color black, and they're all extra smalls. So this is just some basic ways that you can use a pivot table to get you some information that may be helpful in either making a decision or just understanding the type of records that you're wanting to look at without having to, let me go back to the data sheet, eyeball it and then manually count. Pivot tables come handy when you're needing just to basically slice and dice, look at, how many records are in a large or how many shirts are needing to be in the color black. This is just, again, a basic example of how pivot tables can really add a lot of value into any decision making that you might need to do, or just understanding where your data is coming from. Especially when you're working with thousands and thousands of records, it's hard to look at the data and just eyeball it without, trying to take it through kind of a pivot table, functionality to look at what the output is of that information. So I know it's getting a little bit more long-winded and a little bit more technical, but just giving you a gist of what pivot tables can do. So let's just say, for instance, I wanted to, kind of rearrange my pivot table a little bit. So as you can see here, size is represented here in the vertical column or the horizontal column, and then colors are represented in size is represented in a row, and then your colors are represented in a column. So let me just say I want to take out colors. So let me take that out of the view, and I want to now look at by size gender. So we obviously had female selected, but now I want to look at not only just female, but male. So you want to make sure your options are both checked by either using the select all option. So when I select all, it will select all options that are, underneath the filter. But I can also change it up where I want to look at just male, or I can want to look at, female and not male. So there's a lot of variety in which you can kind of play around and look at your information. So looking at just gender and then breaking out the sizes, you can see kind of where the volume sits. So for male, for example, I've got a total of 8 items, and then for female I have 9 items broken out into the different sizes. Now if I was trying to look at strictly where I've got the least orders, for example, I have the least orders in a size small, which is a 2 here. So it depends, again, what you're trying to solve for. So I know that this is just some of the basics, but hopefully I've given you just a flavor of what pivot tables, again, can do. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. All right, we'll talk to you soon, and feel free to provide any information that you may find helpful as a tutorial.